Good afternoon. Today is the last Wednesday of this year of 2020. Now that's hard to imagine. This is also our 42nd Wednesday check-in since all this began back in March. So thank you for your faithfulness and for your continued support of our Cathedral's life and ministry. Some announcements to begin with. If you missed them, our Christmas services from Christmas Eve and Christmas Day are online, both on the Cathedral's Facebook and YouTube pages. We were delighted to have Bishop Sandra with us for Christmas Eve this year and to be blessed with the music that accompanied both services. It was wonderful to meet so many of you on Sunday evening during the open door, an opportunity for people to walk through and see the decorated cathedral and to pause for prayer. And thank you also for those who brought donations to the food bank. In fact, by popular demand, we'll be offering another open house this coming Sunday from 4 to 6 p.m. Again, this is a walkthrough, not a worship service, so masks are required, physical distancing observed, and entry will be through the main cathedral front doors. If you're not able to attend, there is a short video clip of the hundreds of handcrafted snowflakes and stars adorning the cathedral on the cathedral's Facebook page. This Sunday, we will begin again to offer limited capacity in-person worship. There will be 2 services offered at 8:30 and at 10 a.m. At the moment, with current guidelines, the total capacity we are allowed in the building is 100, and we have individual seating capacity, socially distancing, which enables us to have 50 individuals in the nave. So in order to assure you have a place to sit and to facilitate our efforts to provide contact tracing information, we do ask that you reserve seating using the Eventbrite system, which you will find on the Cathedral's website. If there is no increase in COVID infections in the coming week as a result of travel and gatherings through this holiday, we will also begin to offer once again in-person services through the week, Wednesday mornings at 7:30 a.m., meditation session on Wednesday at noon in the Great Hall, and a Book of Common Prayer Eucharist Fridays at noon. The online meditation learning and prayer time will return on January 7th. That's at 6:30 p.m. If you would like to receive the link to participate in that online meditation, please send an email to prayasucan3, that's the number 3, at gmail.com. Zoom Sunday School will also start back up in the coming weeks once the regular school holidays are over. As I've mentioned before, using Zoom, it doesn't matter where someone is located. So if you know a young person that would like to join us, just send an email to the office, cathedralchurch@eastlink.ca. As to a poem, a song, and a prayer for today, I received a Christmas card, a lovely winter scene with a white wooden church nestled in the country, and a quote from a poem which has also been set to music as a classic carol by Henry Wadsworth Longfellow. I heard the bells on Christmas Day, their old familiar carols play, and wild and sweet the words repeat of peace on earth, goodwill to men. But the backstory to that poem, which at first blush seems to be about the peace and serenity of the idyllic Christmas like that imaged on the card, and of what we might imagine Christmas to be, is actually a poem that struggles to reconcile life as it is and what God may have hoped to gift us with. I am also, in reflecting on this poem, aware that yesterday in the church's calendar was the day known as Holy Innocents. For lost in the nostalgia of the Christmas story is the reality that the gospel is not good news to everyone, especially for those who place power and control and ego above all else. It's a story as old as time. We read in the 2nd chapter of Matthew that when Jesus was born in Bethlehem, King Herod, after learning of his birth by the foreign visitors, kings, or magi, in fearing for his throne, ordered that all male infants of Bethlehem be put to death. St. Augustine called them, quote, buds killed by the frost of persecution the moment they showed themselves, unquote. Now, I've mentioned the poet and author Henry Wadsworth Longfellow in a past Wednesday reflection. He was born in Portland, Maine, studied at Harvard, and settled in Boston. He wrote such stories and epic poems as The Ride of Paul Revere, The Song of Hiawatha, and Evangeline, the epic poem dealing with the expulsion of the Acadians from Nova Scotia. Henry's first wife had died, giving birth to one of their 6 children, and his second wife, Fanny, died tragically after her dress caught fire from the cooking fireplace. Despite his attempts to extinguish the blaze, she would not recover, and Henry would wrestle with deep bouts of depression for the rest of his life. His iconic long beard disguised the burns he received in trying to save her. So when his son Charles left home unannounced, less than 2 years later, to take the train from Boston to Washington, D.C., to enlist in the Union Army to fight in the Civil War, you can well imagine his fear and despair. On November 27, 1863, Charles was severely wounded in the Battle of Mine Run, and a telegram reached Henry in Boston on December 1st. Accompanied by his son, Ernest, they traveled to Washington to meet up with Charles and accompany him home, where it would be some 6 months before he would recover. Reading from the website TGC, quote, on Friday, December 25th, 1863, Longfellow, as a 57-year-old widowed father of 6 children, the oldest of which had nearly been paralyzed as his country fought a war against itself, wrote a poem seeking to capture the dynamic and dissonance in his own heart and the world he observes around him on that Christmas day. He heard the bells ringing in Cambridge and the singing of Peace on Earth, but he observed the world as a place of injustice and violence that seemed to mock the truthfulness of this optimistic outlook. The theme of listening recurs throughout the poem, eventually leading to a settledness of confident hope, even in the midst of bleak despair, as he recounts to himself that God is alive and righteousness shall prevail. Within a decade of its writing, 1872, the poem was set to music by the English organist John Baptiste Calkin for a processional set to the melody called Waltham. So the poem, I Heard the Bells, and I'm aware of the term men used repeatedly, a reflection of the times. I heard the bells on Christmas Day, their old familiar carols play, and wild and sweet the words repeat of peace on earth, goodwill to men. And thought how, as the day had come, the belfries of all Christendom had rolled along the unbroken song of peace on earth, goodwill to men. Till, ringing, singing on its way, the world revolved from night to day, a voice, a chime, a chant sublime of peace on earth, goodwill to men. Then from each black accursed mouth the cannon thundered in the south, and with the sound the carols drowned of peace on earth, goodwill to men. It was as if an earthquake rent the hearthstones of a continent and made forlorn the households born of peace on earth, goodwill to men. And in despair I bowed my head. There is no peace on earth, I said, for hate is strong and mocks the song of peace on earth, goodwill to men. Then pealed the bells more loud and deep. God is not dead, nor doth he sleep. The wrong shall fail, the right prevail, with peace on earth, goodwill to men. As a song, in the midst of this Christmas season, I wondered, of all the Christmas music, sacred and secular, what is the number one Christmas tune? Well, it turns out the most popular so-called contemporary Christmas song is the holiday single by Mariah Carey, her 1994 track, All I Want for Christmas Is You, which SoundScan estimates as having sold 3.2 million copies. Now that's pretty impressive. But that pales compared to the number one Christmas song of all time, and in fact, the number one song, period. Do you know what that is? According to the Guinness Book of World Records, White Christmas by Bing Crosby is not only the best-selling Christmas holiday single, but also the best-selling single of any kind, any genre of all time, with estimated sales in excess of 50 million copies worldwide. The lyrics for White Christmas were written by a Jewish immigrant to the U.S. by the name of Irving Berlin. The song reminisces about an old-fashioned Christmas, just like the ones we used to know. Written by Berlin for the musical film Holiday Inn, the song won the Academy Award for Best Original Song at the 15th Academy Awards. Accounts vary as to when and where Irving Berlin wrote the song. One story is that he wrote it in 1940 in warm and sunny La Quinta, California. He often stayed up all night writing, and one day he told his secretary, quote, "I want you to take down a song I wrote over the weekend. Not only is it the best song I ever wrote, it's the best song anybody ever wrote," end quote. The first public performance of the song was by Bing Crosby on his NBC radio show, The Kraft Music Hall, Christmas Day, 1941, just a few weeks after the attack on Pearl Harbor. Since its release, White Christmas has been covered by multiple artists, with the version sung by Bing Crosby, as mentioned before, being the world's best-selling single record, with estimated sales in excess of 50 million copies worldwide. But when the figures for other versions of this song are added to Crosby's, sales of the song White Christmas exceed 100 million. So Irving Berlin was not too far off the mark that it may be the best song, at least commercially, anybody ever wrote. In closing out this year of 2020, here is a reflection, a prayer, written by Howard Thurman. Howard Thurman was an author, theologian, philosopher, educator, and civil rights leader. He played an active role in many social justice movements, and as a theologian and advocate for radical nonviolence, he was a mentor to Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. In 1944, he helped found the Church for the Fellowship of All Peoples in San Francisco, the first racially integrated church in the U.S. I was reminded of his prayer after seeing my neighbor's Christmas tree placed at curbside yesterday. Let's not be too hasty to put Christmas behind us. This prayer he entitles, "The Work of Christmas." When the song of the angels is stilled, when the star in the sky is gone, when the kings and princes are home, when the shepherds are back with their flock, the work of Christmas begins. To find the lost, to heal the broken, to feed the hungry, to release the prisoner, to rebuild the nations, to bring peace among others, to make music in the heart. Blessings to you all, and every wish for a new and hope-filled year to come. Keep in touch, stay safe, and keep the faith. And we'll see you next year.